Welcome to the showcase, and this is an extra special one because I don't know if I can hold my breath without laughing all the way through this, but extra special guest, over 270 podcasts later, and I finally got a man that I met many years ago when I lived in Wakefield, an outstanding guy. In fact, there isn't nobody in Clubland that doesn't know this man, and I just want to read you this. Steve Womack is a prolific comedy performer, finding success with audiences wherever he goes. And Steve's creative, rip-roaring and hilarious take on musical comedy is second to none, making him the ideal addition to any event that you should have. So there you go. That's a great start to the show. Welcome, Steve Womack.
Hi, Sean. Oddly enough, I can remember where I was, exactly where I was when I wrote that review. No, I didn't.
Go on.
No, I didn't write it. That was the joke. Sometimes I get an audience full of people like you. No, that was very complimentary, wasn't it? Who said that? Look.
It's on Champions Music and Entertainment.
Yes, John Thingy. Yeah.
But like I said, Steve, there ain't nobody that don't know you, and you've done some massive events. You're a well-established entertainer, sadly leaving the UK, but I want to leave that while the end because that's a surprise. So, Steve, I mean, it's a bit difficult to say, tell us how you got started because you're well on in life like me. You've had an amazing life. Tell us about how things got going for you in the early days, Steve.
Well, I used to be a baby. I suppose that's where it started. We'll skip forward a bit. I think I can tell you exactly what triggered the idea that I was going to go into the entertainment business. We were in class, and I was the first comprehensive school year, so I ended up at Dagenham Grammar for Girls at some point as the first ones to, because Dagenham Grammar for Girls became a mixed school that year, and they didn't take too well to, obviously, a long tradition of girls-only school. But we were in, it was the break-up in summer holidays, and the teacher, a guy called, a ginger-haired maths teacher called Fraser Bottom. So unfortunately, those lads had no jokes about him whatsoever. He said, right, we've done the morning. We'll just have some fun now till we closing times. Anybody want to tell a joke, sing a song? And some of the lads told a mucky joke, and some of the girls sang a song. And I said, sir, I have for you a conundrum. I probably didn't say it like that, but he said, go on then, Womack, which used to be my name, Womack, till Womack and Womack came along and we had to change it. I said, my conundrum, a mother shares 100 sweets equally between her children. How many does each child get? And I could see my mates going, oh, no, woman, pack it in. You're going to make an idiot of yourself again. And he said, well, of course, it could be several things. You could have 4 kids, it'd be 20. I said, it can only be one answer. He said, tell me, guys, her mother shares 100 sweets equally between her children. How many does each child get? He said, well, it could be, I said, no, it can only be one answer, sir. He said, what is it? I said, 50. He said, well, it could be 50. Sir, it can only be 50 because you can only share between 2. Any more you share amongst. And the whole class sort of went, wow, and applauded. The first round of applause. And on the way out, walking through the corridors, I could hear an acoustic guitar playing. And I looked into one of the rooms, and my mate, Ratty, we called him Stuart Ray, his real name, was sitting on a chair with an acoustic guitar singing Ride a White Swan, with 5 or 6 of the upper 6 girls all sat knelt in front of him listening to him sing. And I thought, I'm going to get a guitar. And I got a guitar for Christmas that year, and I would have been 16. And started teaching myself to play the guitar.
Of course, those days, Steve, there was no YouTube to help you learn. You know, you either had to buy a book or do it yourself, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, it came with a book, and, I assumed you had to learn, from the book and do what the book said. The chord pictures were there, 3 different types. At first, I thought you had to play all of them. They were in like where your fingers go on the fretboard. There were like diamonds, circles, and little stars. And I was trying to play all 3 of those positions on the guitar, and I realised after an hour or so that that's not possible. But I did. I spent an awful lot of time in my bedroom playing with it. But as I said, I was 16. And I had lots of time. I can edit that bit out because it just doesn't sound good. That I used to spend a lot of time in the bedroom playing with it.
Well, so did I, but at the end of the day, we won through. Because
Yeah, I
that's
did.
exactly how I started. Yeah.
I did. Yeah, and I played, and I'd always had this sort of whimsical little voice of a choir boy that at 16 sounds pretty much the same as it does now. Because I'm coming into my early 50s. And then when did I first perform or get up somewhere? It would have been oh no, I'll tell you where it was. It was in Wadworth, and there was a girl at school. I'd moved to a different school by this time. My parents had moved to Micklebring because my dad's sister sold her house, and we moved from a council house in Cantley to a 4-bedroom detached house on an acre of land with stables and barns. And, it was, when do we have to go home, Dad? That sort of things. There was a horse. I didn't know it was ours for first 6 months. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, the girl, yes, Christine Reynolds. I'd learned to play a couple of songs and I wanted to impress her. And we went to this place where you get up and sing. I'd already been and sung. But when we got there, the landlord who saw me the week before I said, when can I sing? He said, no, you can't. You're not good enough yet. Which, of course, really impressed Christine Reynolds and taught me a lesson. It's not always it's not always going to be the bowl of cherries that you thought it might be. What was I saying? Oh no, I finished that one, haven't I? Yeah.
Yeah, you finished that one. You'd moved on to improvisation. So, at what age, Steve, did you kind of like start getting into clubland?
Well, you're saying club, like, I only did it for a short amount of time, the actual, working man's club, see, because it didn't really, a comparative short amount of time. I'd played and started getting up at folk clubs as a floor singer, and we used to go to, I could tell you a really weird story here, that
Yeah.
I seem to be plagued by coincidences, not just, little things that look the same, but really odds are off. Anyway, we'll come back to that. Yes, the corporation taps. I used to get up at a folk club with the corporation taps, which was run by an Irish guy who liked to sing himself, and we'd stay behind, lock the door, as is tradition. And then when I was sort of, I don't know, 18-ish, started getting paid in pubs. And then on to the club scene. But how old will I have been? I don't know, 20? Around about then. As a git voc, which is a term I'm sure you'll be familiar with.
I know that one.
Guitar vocalist. They love the abbreviation. If ever I saw it on a poster outside when I turned up a place, I used to put hum can underneath it. And the concert secretary would say, what have you done that hum? So, well, I'd just like to expand my creativity. It means human cannonball. Guitar vocalist, human cannonball. A lot of clubs didn't book me back on the strength of that. Absolutely. And then
Steve,
after
did you ever have a proper job? A proper job, like Mum used to say, get a proper job.
Yeah, proper job was a first one was working for Bell Watson estate agents on the high street, Holgate in Doncaster. And I was put into a dark room to assemble the property list, which was then mailed out. Having been to the Gazette now, I put all the pictures on, the front of it, and then you make this acetate thing, and then it's off to be printed. Now, I know exactly how old I was then. 18, because the girls took me for my 18th birthday to the pub downstairs. And there were 2 sittings of an hour and a quarter for lunch. And I ended up having both of them. And they got me really, really drunk, because I think I was virtually the only male person working there, apart from management, who showed up now and again. So when I went back into my little dark room to do the property list, I printed the heading "properly pissed" instead of "property list," which of course I thought was hilarious. And it went unnoticed and got printed up and sent out to presumably thousands of homes. the following the following day, I was invited into Charlie Beck, the manager, Mr. Beck, his office, and he said something I'd not heard before, but I've heard since. He says, "Stephen, I don't know how this company's going to manage without you, but as from Monday, we're going to give it a try," which softened the blow a bit, because he rarely resorted to any form of humour, Charlie Beck. In fact, when he interviewed me for the job, he said to me, he said, "Your face seems familiar. Have you taken my daughter out?" I said, "No, sir, but if it means me getting the job, I'm prepared to." And there was this sort of slight grin came over his mouth, and he must have realised, because he covered his mouth up. I had vivid memories of this, but I can't remember what I had for breakfast today, to be honest. It's funny, isn't it, the brain? So
It
yes,
is.
I departed them and went to work at British Rail in the office for a
Ah,
while, and they sacked me as well, to do with the Queen. Um, the I worked, to say that I was so young and no previous experience of this, they gave what has to be the most important job in the British Rail. It was to transfer 24-hour clock times from a sheet I was given into several little sheets to give to eventually got to the signalman. Now, these 24-hour things would have sat, it's like a telephone directory numbers, about 3 or 4 minutes apart. Now, if I missed one of those out, this signalman thinks a train is 3 minutes different from where it actually is. And there was an incident in York. Apparently, nobody was hurt, but a train that shouldn't have been there was still there. And so they give me that. But the reason it wasn't me that did it with the incident with the Queen. She arrived in Doncaster, and the train pulled up, and the red carpet and everything. The mayor and all the civic dignitaries, all in their regalia, were waiting, and the door opened for the Queen, one carriage down. And somebody had written the wrong carriage down, and I got the blame for it. Now, I'd been seconded that week to a completely different department for training, so it wasn't me. I know who it was. I know who it was. So they asked me to leave as well, and I worked for my father who had a construction company, so I worked on the shop floor for nearly a year. And at 19, I got an offer to join a band in Jersey as a guitar player, and the band had this horrendous hit in the 60s, which was all whistling. It went, I was Kaiser Bill's Batman by Whistling Jack Smith. Now, I say the band, it wasn't the band at all. The thing was already recorded. Bill Moeller, who was Whistling Jack Smith, wasn't even on the record. He got that job because, am I talking too much?
no,
Oh,
no, carry on.
because his brother, Tommy Moeller, that's how I got the job, through Tommy, Australian guy who moved to Doncaster. Now, Tommy was a lead singer in a group called Unit 4+2, who'd had a hit with the wonderful song Concrete and Clay, you might remember. And the
Yeah,
concrete and the
yeah.
clay beneath my feet begin to tumble. Great song. And the Whistling Jack Smith thing was written by, I think it was the Roger Cook and Roger, what was the other Roger? Roger Cook and Roger Greenaway. I checked that out afterwards. And they were looking for somebody to dress up in a monkey suit and go on top of the pops. And Tommy had said, Billy will do it. He was a roadie for Unit 4+2, so that's how he got that job. And then Tommy recommended me to Bill, who was living in Jersey, and I went out and worked in Jersey for, I would say, I don't know, 9 months, something, before getting deported. One of the 3 deportations orders I've had in my life. I can't. And here's me
I can't
thinking
wait
of,
to hear them, Steve.
oh dear, well, one of them, I don't know if I can tell you, but if you wish to. So having done that, I then joined, there was a band, an acoustic folky group called Wesley Park and Smith, and there was no Park and Smith and never had been, but they'd asked me to join just before I went to Jersey. The idea of going to Jersey was a little more attractive than the folk club thing, so I went there. But we were running out of work a little bit in Jersey, and they came to do a couple of gigs there. So I remember walking across the island, which is not bad. Jersey, I don't know, is it 5-6 miles long?
Yeah,
Saw the
not
gig and
big.
said, look, I'm available. Apparently, I'm living here anyway. And I went and joined those. So that will have been 1976, because in 1977, this guy in London called Dave Mindel, who was a songwriter and producer, Tina's. And Dave has, I'm still in touch with him. Physically haven't been in the same room as him since 1977, but we've written songs together since then. And he didn't realise it was me that was in the band that he got onto the Eurovision Song Contest and a deal with RCA. So as a folky group, you know, with that sort of attitude towards things, when we were asked to do that with them, no, sort of thing. But then we heard the song, and it was a great song. And it was just for the heats. You know, they used to have the 12 songs in the vote for who represents, was it United Kingdom or Great Britain? What did they call us? I don't know. But Dave had written a song that I'd actually gone out and bought not too long before that. So I was very, you know, overawed meeting somebody famous at that age. And the song was, it was a hit for Gary Benson. It was called Don't Throw It All Away. Don't throw it all away. You don't have to be the one who's going to have to make you pay. And I loved that song. And I went and actually bought the single. So we did the Eurovision BBC programme, the only year the cameramen at the BBC have gone on strike. And we got new suits and everything. All the family sat around the telly at home, the whole lot.
Oh,
And an
bugger.
announcement half an hour before that, unfortunately. But it did get us to do with RCA, and nothing really too much came of it. It would have done, but because a song was being sort of attached to us from RCA. Core, I think it was Let Your Love Flow. Let Your Love Flow, that one.
That's the
But
Bellamy Brothers, yeah?
yeah, I'm pretty sure it was that song. But a lot of gangster stuff to do with RCA, and still is. You know, it's half mafia owned, and we ended up coming up against the Break Your Leg Management Incorporation that represented the other artists and didn't get the song. But after a while, you know, things came to an end with Wesley Park and Smith, and I decided to give it a go on my own. I'll just draw a breath now, shall I?
Yeah, it's quite amazing because you're just a natural funny man, and your humour just be, you know, you can either tell a joke or you can tell something funny or you can't, and everything that you say is naturally funny. So you must have this natural ability to make people laugh.
Well, I mean, you're right. Theoretically, having been a professional comedian for so long, I
Yeah.
have to say yes. But it's a curse. It's almost a disease that it's like comedy Tourette's that most of the time isn't funny. And this is the offstage version of me. And I get told to shut up a lot, you know, not necessarily in those words, but and even,
Are you
you know, I'll go out.
constantly funny?
Well, like I say, it's something I can't help, and I'll be going out for the evening. I'll think, right, now just keep your mouth shut tonight. Stop it with all your stupid jokes. Not everything's funny, you know. But I'd find, you know, after 10 minutes being with somebody, I tell you what would be interesting if I said I'm going to tell you a story later on.
Okay.
Seriously, that would, because what I like to do is pretend that what I'm saying to you is true and serious, and that does work on stage if you can convince people that you're telling the truth. I mean, just a short example now. I would say I've recently become more politically aware as I get older, and I've joined a group of people that support the plight of Chinese political dissidents who are in prison for their beliefs. And we as a group believe that when you kiss somebody, that kiss is symbolic of the release of one Chinese prisoner. And I've written a song about this. It's called I Want to Kiss You for China. And you usually get this sort of 1.5 seconds of silence before one person finds it amusing. They'll not do the one about what I did for Korea. It's a completely different country.
You've got a talent for writing songs and making them hilarious, and that is very difficult to do, because when I pick the guitar up, I'm serious. You know, I can't sing anything that's funny. It just doesn't come, or it just doesn't come over. With you having that sense of humor, whatever you write, I've seen some of your videos. They're very, very funny. And you kind of like, do you write the words before you write the chords, or do you play along with the guitar and something comes out?
Well, for the funny stuff, the humorous songs, which I don't really do anymore, I haven't done one for ages. I think the last one was 1990. All the humorous ones are words first. Oh, there's something on my screen that's cropped up. And words first. And I learnt from and tried to sort of be as good as the master, who was Jake Thackeray. Nobody's going to come near him. Even as a kid, I used to watch him on Braden's Beat, the Braden Beat, is it? An Esther Ranson show. I mean, my mum had, once twice has got me out of bed as a kid and said, come on, that funny man's on. And I'd watch him. And doing the folk clubs, of course, later on, I met him a lot of times, Jake, and I wrote, I think about 3 or 4 deliberately trying to imitate him. And I played them to him. And he was so funny, the most eloquent songwriter that of that, not just the comics, but just his eloquence and use of the language was, to me, just second to none. I remember playing him in one song, and he said, actually, Stephen, that's quite amusing. And that was, that's as far as he went with that. But we were having a drink somewhere. I think it might have been the Rockingham Arms in Wentworth, and he told this story. I'd never heard him tell it, but he got this. I think he was a fellow teacher from when he was a teacher in Leeds, Jake, and I think he was called Reggie. And he said something like, in our lives we have maybe half a dozen ridiculously unfortunate incidents that happen to us. Reggie used to have 2 a day, and he said he was once running through the street in the city centre of Leeds, chasing a bus in the days when the buses were open at the back, and there was a pole, and people would actually stand. Yeah. Anyway, he caught up with the bus, jumped onto it, grabbed the pole, which was actually a broomstick of a woman who'd just been out and bought it. So Reggie jumped on the bus, grabbed this pole. Of course, we just went straight on his back in the middle of the street. And this poor woman had been robbed of a new sweeping brush pole, whatever. I remember that in stitches.
Steve, let me just pause for a second. I'm going to put one of your videos on now.
Now, our next guest was on the show a couple of weeks ago. You liked him, we liked him, he made us laugh. Please welcome back Steve Womack. It's always nice following the pop star, isn't it? That for years.
Isn't he cute?
He is very nice. He's a very nice boy too, very nice lad. Nice to see you back again.
It's lovely to be back so soon as well. It's hardly worth me going home, really, isn't it? But it's also nice, and you have to indulge me a bit, Mel. I didn't tell you last time, but it's a very sentimental thing for me, because your big hit, Dick-a-Dum-Dum, used to be my mother's favourite song. And she's not dead, it's just not her favourite song anymore. It used to be. No, she's actually she came round this morning, my mother. But after a brief struggle, we managed to sedate her again. So she...
No, I was going to say you're only here a few weeks ago, but and has anything happened to you in the time that you've been away from us? What have you been up to?
Not really. Oh, actually, yes. Last Thursday, it's Thursday before last. I got my tie caught in a fax machine. The next thing I know, I'm in an office in Hong Kong. You know, you don't need that, do you, really? But I'll tell you what else I did. I went to... it was billed as an afternoon's entertainment at a prison. A mate of mine's a warder at the prison.
Were you performing?
I was performing. I didn't want to do it, but I thought a captive audience, you know. Yeah. So I went and did it, and I enjoyed it. They were a very good crowd. I don't think they get out much. And afterwards, I went out to the car, and I'd locked my keys in the car. And I was hopping mad. I said, "Oh, damn!" And I was just about to ring the AA. Well, I was just about to ring the AA, and I thought, "What am I doing? The place is full of people. Get me in here." And I had a word with my mate, and he fetched this young lad out, and he was only 18. He saw me. He said, "Oh, I thought you were funny." And I said, "Thank you." He said, "Have you locked yourself out of your car?" I said, "I have actually." He said, "Leave it to me," and he chucked a brick through the window. Why me, eh?
Well, that's not exactly a lucky day. You don't consider yourself actually being a lucky person.
I think I'm the first generation to get away with it in our family because I think it is hereditary.
What, luck?
Bad luck. Bad luck, yeah. I've traced it back through our family tree. I've been to Somerset Maugham here in London, and they're waking up, look. And I traced it back. I had an ancestor who was killed at the Battle of the Little Big Horn with General Custer. He wasn't even in the army, he was camping in the next field. He'd only gone over to complain about the noise, and that was the last I saw him. I had a grandfather who confessed to murder on his deathbed and got better. And actually, my other granddad, I've got to say this, it's really changing the subject, but I was thinking about him in the car over the way today, and something came on the radio that reminded me of him. And this is a warning, I suppose. I should have visited him a little bit more than I did, or rung him up maybe for a chat, and even written to him, but I never did, and it's too late now. He's won the lottery. Shame.
That's unlucky. Now, you do seem, although this is a little bit of an act, I think you're quietly confident. I think, does anything sort of frighten you? Anything scare you? Anything you're a bit worried about?
I'll tell you what I really do, apart from a drunk with a chainsaw or something like that, what I really get... embarrassment, I think. I'm really scared.
Is it easily embarrassed?
Oh, well, yeah. When I was a kid, I had this little rosy red face, and it used to swell up. And that. But, I mean, like, the other week I was coming down to Stratford-on-Avon, Wordsworth country, and I was going to... that was such a sad response over there, wasn't it? And I was going... And I love Stratford. It's so upmarket compared to half of the north of England. I'm sorry to say that. The big issue was £8. I mean, this is what and on the way down, I had to stop at a motorway service station to perform an ablution. And I know we usually like to wait till we've got to wherever we're going, don't we, rather than the motorway service station, but suffice to say, I had to stop. And I went in, trap 3, I think I picked. And I sat down, I was just getting comfortable. This voice from the next cubicle said, "Hello?" I said, "Hello." He said, "How are you, all right?" I said, "I'm all right, thank you." He said, "How's the wife and kids, are they all right?" I said, "They're okay, thank you very much." And all of a sudden, this head came over the wall. He said, "Do you mind while I'm on my mobile?" I know. He's got to wait till he's gone before he can leave. And worse, the same day. The very same day at the hotel, which is I'll not mention the hotel, but it's a hotel I particularly like. In fact, I've had their name emblazoned on my towels and bathrobe at home.
Oh, that's nice. Sure is nice.
But as soon as I walked into the hotel bedroom, my eye was drawn to the pillow where you'd usually expect to see a little chocolate in silver paper and perhaps a card saying, "I'm Lorraine, I'll be your chambermaid." But no. There was this, it was like an A5 leaflet with a picture of a young lady with the skimpiest of tops and a little miniskirt. It was one of these massage service things, and I was offended, I think, more than anything. So I rung them up, and I said, "Hello, I've got your leaflet, thank you very much. Could you, in fact, send somebody like the lady on the hanging out?" and bring some scented oils from the east, not Grimsby, and I'll lay on my front on the bed, I'll take my shirt off, I'll leave the door off the latch so you can get... She said, can I just stop you there a minute? Can you dial 9 for an outside line? It's not funny. Every time I walk past reception, they're all going, that's him, that's him.
Now, you're a bit of a worrier. You worry about saying the wrong thing at the wrong time.
I'm terrible. I mean, live television, what am I doing? And this is the reason, well, one of the reasons. I stopped drinking. I used to like a drink a little bit now and again, and I packed it in. It's the stupid things you say to people when you've had too much, like, I do, and I went once to it was the British Embassy in Paris. I was invited to the St George's Day dinner. I was doing it in English, which is a shame because the French language has about it that certain I don't know what, isn't it? and I did my bit, and as I walked off stage, somebody presented me with an ice bucket with a magnum of champagne in it. So I'd knocked that back, and I was talking to this woman, and she was the Vice Envoy's wife, which I didn't know. I said, so you're obviously English? She said, actually, I'm Welsh. I said, oh, Wales, the home of rugby players and then beautiful women. She said, thank you very much. I said, what position do you play? And oh, it's funny now.
We should thank Steve Womack, funny man.
Thank you.
Steve Womack. Good, Steve. Nice laugh. Thank you.
Nice to see you.
He makes me smile, right? Today.
Right. Okay. I hope the viewers enjoyed that because it just gives a bit of an insight into who you are. Now, Steve, look, I met you a long time ago. I'm not sure my age, and even then, everywhere I went, every club I went in Yorkshire, Newcastle, everywhere, Steve Womack, Steve Womack, Steve Womack was everywhere. You was the in thing. You must have been working flat out.
Yeah. I mean, I was doing it for a living. Of course, you don't get paid a fortune. Clubs were better.
Well, you didn't
clubs.
then.
I don't know what it is now, but the pubs anywhere between 15 and 40 quid a night, sort of thing. The 15s were usually tagged on to another gig you had. But I recently had a look in some of my old diaries, and I think I counted 76 nights on the trot, and then a night off, and then another 30 or 40 odd. So it was like that. And hold on, it's there again. And of course, these young uns today, you get to that stage in your life when you say they don't know they're born. But you would need to do that many. And then I think the change of making it a little bit easier for that was starting to write comedy for other comics.
Oh.
This was before I was doing any comedy myself. And I used to write stuff for Nutty, Bobby Nutt, a good mate of mine, sadly no longer with us, and occasional things for a line here and there for a famous TV comic, Bob Monkhouse. I remember there was a couple got through, and I forget the others, but just the odd ones. I wasn't a staff writer or anything. But then it came to a point where I thought, well, these comics in clubs are getting paid that much. I'm getting paid that, I'm writing some of their material. I thought, well, I'll give this comedy thing. It doesn't look that hard, So I booked a night in the Traveller's Rest in Rotherham, which has a wonderful back room where, it holds about 150 people all sat around a central set, where I thought I'd record that and maybe release cassettes, as it was in those days. And I did that, and I mixed a few of the topical songs I've been writing for most of the BBC, but other people as well. There's this line of topical songwriters that starts with who's a calypso guy? I remember. Then you've got Bert Gorn, of course, and the man who wrote the lyrics with ABBA for, was it not one night in Bangkok, not Chess, one of the others. With anyway, Richard Stilgoe. So I sort of stepped into that one for a while, and then I got doing the corporate stuff. After the cassette night went very well, I started getting into companies paying me, which basically, even to start with, stick a note on the end of your fee. and they still thought you were too cheap at that. So even going back to the 80s, I mean, I don't mind telling you how much it is. It's a profession where people know how much you earn. You know, goes to ring you up and ask me how much you charge. You can't say, well, unfortunately, I can't tell you. You can't do that. So I went from the sort of 50, 60, 70 quid's worth then to corporate stuff at $1,000, which was a bit of a, you know, a wage increase, really.
Oh, yeah, in them days, yeah.
Yeah, and then people would come to us and say, no, we had so-and-so do this last year, and he charged 3 and 4 grand stuff, and I just doubled it. And it just, they think, oh, he must be good because he's for that sort of money. So I was doing really well there financially. I was able to buy a nicer house and a car and lots more cocaine and hookers. Sorry, did I say that out loud? No, no, none of that. No, I've always been against the drugs thing. And the hookers, of course. So yeah, the and a lot of comics say no, they don't like them. I quite enjoyed them. Very civilized, good audiences, grown-up people.
Yeah, but Steve, you look at when you did it, it was fantastic. The clubs were packed,
Yeah.
they'd listen to every word and clap. Nowadays, Chubby Brown must find it horrendous, because this political correctness is absolute rubbish, and you can't say what you want to say. You can't say anything about, Indians, blacks, all the rest of it. And it's just gone mad, hasn't it, Steve? I mean,
Yeah,
I bet you're glad you're not doing it.
Well, I am doing it, and not the clubs, of course, because like you say, there aren't too many of them. But I never really went into that area of what might be considered offensive. Certainly nothing racist. Although,
Right.
Looking back, there might be one or two things I'd said that were considered okay then, but racist now. I don't care about that. It's up to me. It's up to what I consider to be racist. You can't take an offence if no offence is given in the first place. And I just don't give anything offensive. So if somebody takes it, they're taking something that doesn't exist. But I never liked anything racist, even at the time. If you look back to Love Thy Neighbour, which was, I mean, I watched that and I think, how on earth, But it's always
On the
been,
buses.
yeah. Well, the buses weren't too bad, but I think it was Love Thy Neighbour. But it was all against the black guy who was, what's his name? He
Yes.
was, forget his name. But he was interviewed about it recently. He said, it meant nothing to him.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was upsetting to a few people, but and of course, Till Death Us Do Part. When Johnny Spate wrote that, his target was Alf, not an Alf's bigotry. His target was not the people that Alf was bigoted about. He was pointing out that it's Alf that shouldn't be allowed, but people didn't understand that. It's like Randy Newman with his Redneck song. You're going to have to Google that because I'm going to do the whole lyrics. And he had a lot of trouble with writing that because people didn't realize that he was targeting the redneck southern states and their attitude towards the black communities there. It didn't help by following it up with Short People. I remember one of his songs. I think it's got that's this suicide thing, old Randy. What were we talking about? Oh yes, the material in clubs. Yeah, I mean, there's the other stuff, the misogyny. I grew up with women that wouldn't flinch at anything. You'd get the same back. It's not there were no snowflake women there. It was banter back and forth, and there were no insults from either side. It was and you do find that it's not that women have changed. I think sometimes they think they ought to have changed in their attitudes and defend themselves, whereas the women I grew up with didn't. They defended themselves very well and very naturally.
Yeah. Steve, let's move on to a couple of your abroad trips and your conundrums that happened and things. One of the stories you told me when we was chatting about it. Beirut, was it?
Yeah, I mean, I have this strange. It's not a good habit. It's to just buy a pub every so often. And for somebody who used to drink a lot, I don't drink anymore. I don't drink any less either. Ba-boom. I mean, that used to be a joke. It's now true. Um, and I'm taking you to this Guinness Zero. I never drank Guinness, when it was not zero, but it's non-alcoholic lager. Some comic, I don't know who it was, really nailed it. And they said non-alcoholic beer is like going to a hooker for a cuddle. And I think that just about nails it, really. But yeah, I did. Somebody gave me a pub one night in town in Doncaster. He was the area manager, and they had a pub to get rid of. What was it called? The Turf Tavern, across from the bus station, which was a real den of iniquity. I mean, people shopped for leather coats in there. You just go in, order a leather coat, he'd nip out, nick one for you, and fetch you back. I managed to stop that by just getting the police in to sit amongst them.
Oh dear.
So I was given that, and it was 50 quid a week rent. It was because nobody'd take it. And then three of us bought a pub in Beirut, as you said. I know. It looks good on the CV, though. I was in Beirut to do a job at the embassy initially, and I'd done a couple more and got to know a few people. Jim, who was the vice envoy or some title like that, and a guy called Brian Whitbread who lived there. He was a builder, and we saw this property one day in Solidaire in Beirut, and it had been something. It's not a dry country, Lebanon. There are drinking holes, and it was up for sale, so we decided to buy it. And we did it up, and it was called The Boat. And after the boat, after I don't know, a year or so, we were offered an awful lot of money by an American company. Jim and Brian said, right, that's when we'll take that. And I said, no, we voted. No, I lost. I wanted to build a Beatles-themed cigar room upstairs. The Beatles are very popular in Beirut. Hard Rock Cafe for a while had, and I used to stand and stare at it. It was behind a metal grill on the staircase going up. Piece of paper and handwritten was the lyrics to Imagine, but it was the piece of paper, the actual real one, hence the metal grill around it. But anyway, we sold it to Americans, and a few months later, it kicked off with, I believe, Israel again, and they bombed the area and destroyed the pub. And under I don't know if it's still active war that you don't get insured for, we would have lost everything.
So that was good then. You got paid for it then before it got bombed, did you?
Yeah, it was
I suppose that was a lucky streak. Yeah.
It's a good job I was outvoted on that. And then I Turnpike in Bawtry, where I will be tomorrow night to go in there. When I say tomorrow night, depends when this is airing, doesn't it?
It does,
my mate,
yeah.
Mick Howcroft, and we've sort of played in bands together since I was 18 and he was 32, as I always say, although he's the same age as me. He said, come down. It's your last time you played there was when you were landlord. So I see I'll come do a spot with you, his trio. So I'll be there and have a good time on that one, I think. But the Turnpike had for 8-9 years.
Did you have live entertainment?
Twice a week. And I mean live, no backing tracks.
Right.
Being old school, if any of the singers turned up and put a music stand with the words on in front of them, I used to walk up and take it away. Learn the song. I had to learn it. I was going to learn it. Still irks me a little bit. Learn the song, for crying out loud.
Karaoke singers,
I was forced to learn them. I used to play in Norway, another place I got deported from. I've just said that before, twice, Norway. It was 5 45-minute spots a night. Sing at 7 till 7:45, and straight 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, quarter of an hour off in between. That's a lot of songs.
Correct.
You're repeating now and again, but it's 6 nights a week, and you're doing no such thing as no idea. You know, nobody had the idea of putting words in front of you. You know, you learned the song, and that was it. And I know you get like the old fogey sort of thing, say that it should be done the way I did, but I still believe it. You can't perform a song and read the lyrics at the same time because you're not giving anything.
No.
Instead of performing, what you're doing is stand there reading lyrics.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you know, Steve? When you said about 5:45s a night, nobody would ever believe that. But I actually did that with Karen when I was in Leather and Lace when we met you. We was in the Middle East for an agent called Eva Clarence, and she said, well, some of the venues are 4:45-minute night, and you go, oh. And then some of them are 5:45, and you go, oh, you know. But you learn the songs quickly, and you know what? You can use the venue as a practice pad. You know, you can, because they don't care, because all these Arabs and people that are out there getting drunk, they don't come to see you. You're just background, so you can just play what you want to play. I mean, I learned to play Hotel California, the solo, while I was there. It probably took a year, but it worked. But it toughens you up, Steve. It really gives you a good grounding.
Yes, it does. It does. I mean, interestingly enough, the Turnpike that was on the High Street in Bawtry, I did the opening night. I was the opening night in the 1980s. It had changed from upstairs. It used to be a little restaurant, and a mate of mine was singing in there, sitting on the stool in the corner, and he rung me up one night, said, I'm doing this job upstairs restaurant. His name was John Parr. And he said, I've got this chance to go to America and write with David Foster for this film that's going to be released called St. Elmo's Fire.
Wow.
And John rung me up. He was on 15 quid. And he knew that I worked Friday nights in a nightclub in Doncaster, so I could fit that in. And what really upset him was the fact that I got it up to 20. But I think John had the last laugh in the end, financially. Although he got very disheartened with the business. To John, great talent as well.
Yeah. I suppose that's easy to say nowadays. A lot of people can get disheartened with it. But when you was at your height, you still are at your height, may I say. But was you ever managed, or did you always manage yourself?
No, I'd management. I did New Faces at one time, and after that, I was not signed to Michael Vine, who was great bloke. He doesn't sign. It's my word is my bond, sort of thing. And having won the heat, and then gone on to the final and come second to a singer from the Northeast, we got myself and a woman who was knocked out by the eventual winner in an earlier round were put together as Corrigan and Womack, and we got a deal with Central Television to do an initial 12 episode series. And then after that, I mean, we wouldn't get paid for that for a long time. But Michael said, and you better not be working. I think you'd be best off if we just sort of took you off the scene and create some sort of awareness and all this. And I said, it's all very well, but I have bills to pay. So, I've been with him a while, and I just couldn't financially, I just couldn't do it. And stupidly, in retrospect, I left him. The biggest mistake I've ever made.
Really?
Michael was famous for his wind-ups. I mean, sometimes they were quite extravagant. He had, one night at his house, he had a dinner party, quite a big table, and he had about 10 people around it. And halfway through the dinner, the door was knocked open and the SAS came in. And they had everybody on the floor. There was a hostage situation next door. Everybody, all his guests were on the floor, and the SAS fully armed, and they got stethoscopes up to the wall listening to what was going off next door. And then somebody, one of the guests, said, "Wait a minute, this is a detached house." It's shut the whole thing up, you know. But stories of him are ledger. I remember checking into a hotel in Nottingham once. I'm just in reception, and Michael walked up. I didn't see him, walked behind him, put his arm round me, kissed me on the cheek, and said to the receptionist, "Is it possible to get a room for just an hour?" He'd do little things like that all the time.
Yeah,
And
them
the
type of
last time I saw
people.
him,
Yeah.
I went down to London to see Billy Elliot. Because a mate of mine,
Oh.
Tim Healy, was playing Billy's dad. And I just came out of the pub across the road to go to the theatre, and I banged into somebody. I said, "Sorry, mate," and carried on walking. And then I realised who it was, and it was Michael. And we were about 5 yards apart by this time. I realised who it was, and he just looked at me and said, "You ruined my life," and turned around, took about 5 steps, turned back, and came back up to me and me a big. But it's very typical. "You ruined my life." Very good.
It's funny. It's funny. So, Steve, you're still going strong, but it's that time when we need to tell the audience that you're packing up and moving to brighter shores. Can you tell us
Let me
what
just
brought that
let me
about?
just tell you this before.
Yeah.
Hold that one, Sean, and make sure you remember where you are, because you're on about management. Because this is quite an amusing story. A guy named Howard Toulousty, and he was another guy I was sort of semi-managed by, but a great guy, and loads of good work. He used to really, put me in higher places than I thought I deserved at the time. But when I met him, I did the sort of comparing for the seafood festival in Docklands, and after that, we went on this boat trip. Now, what had happened was it was sponsored by Richard Branson, and I was supposed to introduce him on stage, and there was a load of people on the dock side for the big, because I had big acts on, and then the 5,000 people in front of me, and Richard was half an hour late. And there's only so many times you can sing A Long Way to Tipperary to a bunch of Londoners and expect them to join in. So, I was looking at the wings a lot. Then all of a sudden I got the nod, and just off the top of my head, without thinking, I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the man without whom there would be no such thing as a virgin stewardess." And he walked on, said his bit. I walked off the other way, but he took everybody out on his his boat around the Thames. So a lot of the stall holders and the entertainment crew were on this boat, and Richard came up to me and said, "You should have played that with my people before you said that." I said, "Well, if you'd have got there on time, I wouldn't have had to." Obviously, I'd had a couple of glasses of wine by this time. So this little bit between me and him went on for good-humouredly, I would say, because he laughed at what I said, good-humouredly. But all the time, I didn't know this, but Howard Toulousty was just sat on the side watching this, and I didn't know him. He'd booked me for him, but I'd never met him. And when Richard had gone to speak to somebody more interesting than me, Howard came up, introduced himself. "I'm Howard Toulousty." I said, "How's that spelled?" "Oh, no, he gave me his card." That's right. Gave me his card. T''LOOSTY. And I took his card, said thank you. I said, "Are your ancestors Russian Jews?" He said, "Yes." And I just looked at him, and he realised I'd spotted that Toulouse is an anagram of Tolstoy.
Oh.
And he said, "Yes, nobody's spotted that before." And apparently his something, I don't know if you see it when something comes on the screen, but his maybe his grandfather or great grandfather was Russian Jew, came over because of persecution in Russia, and he was called Tolstoy, and changed it to a name that didn't exist at all. I just thought you ought to know that.
That's fantastic, that, Steve. Yeah, and I'm sure that we can go on for hours and hours and hours, but we don't want to bore the viewers because
Right, thanks for that. Yeah.
I'm sure people will need 2 or 3 cups of tea while they're watching this one, but it's all good fun. It's all in good fun, and Steve's had a fantastic life, and as I have in the UK, travelled the world probably 3 times. Steve, haven't you? You've been everywhere. You've been
I've
thrown out of
completed
every
more than
country.
well, yes, some strange events.
Yeah.
One, did you say you wanted to hear why I was deported from places? I
Yes.
the first one was Jersey.
Just one.
Just
Oh, yeah.
one. Okay.
Yeah, two.
Okay. Jersey, the band basically ran out of work, as I think I mentioned earlier. 3 of the band were in this garret flat upstairs, like a big attic, and we had no food. We had no money. And being 19 and thin, as opposed to what I'm now, I used to run across the rooftops dressed as the guy from the Lady Loves Milk tray adverts in the black thing. And literally, I can say it now, break into shop storerooms and nick food out of the freezers so we could eat. And on the way back on one, I just noticed through a window a small black and white television. I thought, oh, we'll have that. So I just borrowed it. And anyway, the landlord came up for his rent, just from Glasgow, as a lot of Jersey people. You've no paid your rent again. He's not Welsh, he's Scottish. You've no paid your rent again. And that's my telly. I've told the police. I didn't realise I'd nicked it from the same building. Anyway, the police, I was given the choice. I go to court for burglary, which was admittedly not, or I go home, and I chose to go home. But this will have to issue a deportation. So I did that, and then one of the Norwegian ones, I think I can say this, that I didn't tell anybody for years. But it was when I was doing the venues with the 545s. It was Scotsman in Oslo. Both the CIA and the KGB were there, very present, because in the 80s Oslo was very prominent. And the KGB would dress as KGB in the Peter Sellers raincoats. But we'd all go out, drink together. And I used to think, I'm 23-year-old going, after we'd finished at 12 o'clock, going around bars with the CIA and the KGB, all talking. And we'd have parties up at the head of the CIA, say his name, you never know, do you? I do know it. And one night, one of the KGB lads got stabbed, presumably by an American, because I was so pissed by that time. I had no memory of this whatsoever, except that the next day, Tor, who was an American, his parents were Norwegian, that's why he was head of CIA, he was round my digs with another guy, showed me a Polaroid of me knelt on the floor next to a dead body, and I got a knife in my hand covered in blood.
Oh.
And he said, "Give your stuff, guy. You got to get out of here." And first thing is killed somebody. And I thought, no, I haven't. I didn't. I don't know why. Maybe they just needed an anonymous face to cover it up. That incident will never have got out anywhere, I'm assuming. But the guy who I shared with, a guy called Richie Bull, who was playing banjo for somebody upstairs. Richie was in a band called the Kersal Flyers, who had this spoof hit in the 70s, I think, called, he went, "Little did she know that you know that I know that we know you're falling in love." That Rich was a bass player in that band. He's confirmed that I haven't dreamt this or made it all up, because I got in touch with him about 5 years ago. But anyway, and the other one from Norway was a visa thing that somebody got wrong and the police kicked me out. And they said they'd turn a blind eye if I behaved myself. Fat chance of that. So they kicked me out. But anyway, go on.
So we're coming to the end, Steve, and I'd like to, like as I said earlier on in the interview, that you're moving ashores.
Yeah, I'm emigrating to Australia, where my family went, and now I've found out where they are. Going to no, I'm kidding. I know where they are. My well, she's not my ex-wife. We're still married. We're not divorced. We're just separated. She's there. I have 3 kids there, 5 grandkids there.
Wow.
A niece there, Dr. Lucy. I think that decision, I'm going to go there.
What's
And
made
I
you
carry on, I carry on doing this cruise ships. I could do one every so often. It's the easiest job in the world if you can do that. Well, because you do a 10-day cruise, you only work one night, maybe 2. And I carry on writing, and we've not even come to that. I know I wrote all these funny songs, everything. It's the other stuff that I was supposed to be doing all my life, that writing songs for, but I specialise in old people. Now I was told the other day that Bonnie Tyler has recorded more of my songs than she recorded of Jim Steinman. It's just unfortunate that Jim Steinman wrote Total Eclipse of
right
the
one.
Heart and Holding Out for a Hero, and I didn't. I wrote, she's done 9 now, one with Cliff Richard, a duet.
Wow.
That's true. I was quite pleased about that.
Well, Steve, I've kind of like created a general interest in Australia now, because Helen Day, who you know is out there, Alan Wood, one of the biggest agencies in the UK, he's out there. Oh, yeah, and there's quite a few people. There's a guy, the Tartan Terror. I don't know if you know him. He's he's on one of my podcasts. He's a great guy from Scotland. He's working every day of the week as an entertainer out there. He said it's just fantastic.
right.
Yeah.
Send me his number, and it'd probably get me something to amuse myself in my dotage.
David Gray, his name. Yeah,
What's his
David
name?
Gray. David Gray. They call him the Tartan Terror. Yeah. So he's done an interview with me, as has Helen. Alan Wood's doing one. I've got the drummer from Cliff Richard doing one. As you know, they're all
well,
a lot of people.
Is there at the moment. Ian West, the drummer from Cliff Richard. Because
he is.
Me and Ian played together 25 years in a band. What was the name of the band? Wait a minute. We were called the Steve Womack Band.
What's the name?
I thought of that name. It's a good one, isn't it?
I don't know. You forget it.
No, West is out there at the moment. He's going to New Zealand, then back here.
You do right, because
Australian. Did you know? I was with him like 20 years before I knew he was Australian.
God.
Yeah, and his son's out there now. I think he was.
Well, he's coming back to the UK, isn't he?
Yeah, he still lives here.
I thought so, because he said 10th of December.
His parents emigrated to the UK when he was a kid, but so obviously he's no trace of Australian accent, which is like when I go over now. My kids moved in their 20s, and they haven't got a trace of Australian accent. So obviously our hold on the accent in Yorkshire is a lot stronger than the Aussies, My grandkids, on the other hand, how you doing, Granddad? I don't know why they would be speaking in a South African accent, but anyway, I suppose.
It's great. Well, Steve, I and the viewers and whoever have met you over the years you will be sadly missed, because part of the entertainment scene in the UK, you've been widely popular, and you will be missed. And in Australia, you will be welcomed, because there's a distinct need for talent like you, because the Aussies like a good laugh. And I'm sure you're with some great people already over there that we've just mentioned, and I'm sure they'll help you on the way. There seems to be flourishing amount of work there. So I can only wish you well. And today I'd like to thank you for coming on the showcase, because you're exactly what the showcase is all about. Looking at the history of behind entertainers, how you got where you are, what you did, how you got locked up, how you got put in prison, how you got on in life, and
we've just scratched the surface, Sean.
We have. We need to do it, Steve. When you get to Australia next year, I'll give you a shout, and we'll do another one.
We'll do another one.
We'll do Steve in Aussie.
I know. I spend most
Steve
of my life
down under.
Why does these things always happen to me? Can I just tell you quickly before I go? It is quickly. You mentioned that Aussies like a laugh. They do, but I think you've got to be on a stage or a television. Otherwise, they don't know why you are saying that. I was in the Botlow, as they call it, which is a wine shop, or an offie, we would call it. And this is after I'd stopped drinking. I went to get half a dozen bottles of wine for people at the Barbie, and I put them on the counter. And the guy said to me, now the thing is, this is an old joke. but it actually happened. And the law is, if the joke occurs, you've got to do the punchline. That's the law. And I put the bottles up and he says, "Now, do you want a box for those, mate?" I said, "Well, I'm not much of a fighter. Can I not just pay cash?" And he just looked at me like I'd stepped off a spaceship and spoke a completely different language. So that's the difference, yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, Steve, thank you for being on the showcase. I
My
can't
pleasure.
thank you enough for such a great hour's entertainment. I do hope the viewers watch this and enjoy it. I would also like, if you want to wish Steve well, on the YouTube video, not on the Facebook, send him a message, please, because I'm sure he'll feel humble about that people are replying to this video. Send him your best wishes. Wish him good luck in Australia. I'm sure he'll be back in 6 months. I don't think so. You might get kicked out, Steve.
Deported.
Deported. Yeah, Kangaroo Steve's gone. So, ladies and gents, thanks for watching the showcase. We can't do it without you because, you bring on people like this. So thank you very much indeed. And thank you for the support that you give to the artists. It's really important. And keep watching, keep sharing, and don't forget to send all the messages. From me, Sean, at the showcase, from Steve.
Sure.
Thank you.